How fast to run in interval training. G'day runners, welcome to Running Alive. I'm Jason Montfort. In this video we're going to delve into how fast should we be running our interval training. There's no exact answer, but there's some helpful guidelines. Let's use my training week as a way to work through it. In this training week, we've got hill repeats, an easy day, an interval day, easy, speed day, long run, and tempo. That's a total of 3 days where I do some form of intervals or repeats. The hill training, the interval day, and the speed training, all intervals. To know how fast to run them, you need to know what you're trying to achieve. In hill repeats, the goal here is to develop strong technique through a full range of motion. Also, I want to develop a very run-specific strength base that will support and allow me to do the higher intensity and harder sessions as the training progresses. As an extra note, I'll also change the hill each week, so different gradient, different length. Therefore, the pace doesn't matter. What matters is that I meet the goal of the run, that good, solid technique. Push through the toes, high knee drive. That's going to ensure that the intensity is up high anyway. For what I'm calling my interval days, it's basically a very typical interval session for most runners. Six by 1,000 metres today at a pace that I can hold for 40 to 45 minutes at each one, 2 minutes rest in between. Hopefully it should be good. I've recalibrated my training as I did per the tests, you'll see that in the last video. But I'm still feeling a little bit of the hangover from the hill repeats from 2 days ago. Nothing too bad, just a little bit of stiffness and heaviness in the legs. Let's see if it affects anything. But how fast should those intervals be? As mentioned in my last video, I'm aiming to hit a pace that's around what some call the critical velocity. The best pace I could hold for 40 to 45 minutes. It's a little bit faster than the second lactate threshold and a little bit slower than the VO2 max. First kilometre done and 4:31 on the dot. Not a bad way to start. Let's see if I can maintain it. Fall down, and so far I've been hitting the times and it feels very doable. Just requires a little bit more concentration with each rep. But what are we aiming to achieve from these interval runs? Particularly in the early stages, you should see an increase in VO2 max. That sixth and final rep was a fair bit harder than all the others, as it should be. Started off fine, but it just became harder and harder. Not impossible and definitely sustainable, but I could feel that heaviness that you get with a low-grade lactic acidosis. It was creeping in and trying to convince my legs to shut down and stop. It wasn't a crazy burn, but I definitely had to push. My breathing rate went up, probably my heart rate. But I think I hit 4:30, so I hit my paces on all of them. First 5 were quite comfortable, I'd say, but that last one definitely stood out. But the better trained you are, the less increase that we will see in VO2 max. You should definitely see an increase in your second lactate threshold, both relatively and at the speed that you can hold it and maintain it. But mainly we should see an improvement in race performance, particularly in the 5 kilometre to half marathon range. So why do I choose this pace for these intervals? Well, back in the 90s and early 2000s, I was a subject in multiple exercise studies. Some of those aim to answer this exact question. In particular, it was found that performing intervals at close to race pace for events around the hour mark, they had a significant effect on improving performance. Also of note, short intervals around 30 seconds performed well above the VO2 max, seem to have a very similar effect on performance as well. Does it mean there's something special about those speeds? Maybe, but maybe not. The improvement seems to be sustainable over a long period of time and don't just result in a quick flash and burn where you get that bit of a jump in improvement, but don't see any if you continue it out for the next few weeks. And importantly, the recovery cost is quite reasonable. Compare it to doing the faster, more brutal interval sessions. They have a bigger recovery cost, and the other aspects of my training tends to suffer. So just backing it back a little bit means I can back it up in the next day or so and continue that moderate to hard training and get maybe more gradual improvement, but it's sustainable over a longer period of time. Speed has been used to describe so many different types of run training. Here I use it to talk about basic speed. So sprinting, that raw speed that can filter down into all other aspects of running. For the goals of speed training: 1. Develop that technique. 2. Develop the elasticity and spring in the muscles and tendons and all that connective tissue. 3. Power. It's not just being strong, it's being able to use that power quickly. The rate you can move your legs, a high, fast cadence, moving through that range of motion quickly and easily. To achieve this, the intervals are kept short and the recoveries are long. The sprints, they're performed fast, usually not quite at max. As an ultra runner, I'm really not used to these short intervals and such a long time in between. They are sprints, they're performed fast, but with the overall aim for them to feel relaxed. The pace is purely a byproduct of form and getting everything else right. Speed training done. Almost felt like a waste of time. So much time just resting and waiting. Don't feel sore, don't feel puffed out, but I know my ankles, my calves, tendons and probably other connective tissue will probably be feeling it later on. Not used to going that quick. I'll trust in the process. So there's a few recommendations you can take away from this video. One is the greatest gains versus risk ratio seems to be if you can do intervals of 3 to 5 minutes at your critical velocity, or the best pace you can hold for about 40 minutes. If working on true speed, then keep the distances short, the recoveries long, go for feel and speed, but not volume. You can absolutely smash yourself in interval training, and it will work. There's a time and a place for it, but there is a cost that comes with it, and that cost needs to be taken into account. It takes time to adapt. Give it time to work. Sometimes you need to bank the training, bank the sessions, have some patience, ensure consistency, and progress will follow. Last run for the week, 6 kilometre tempo, but this time it's not on flat, it's over hills. Well, that's 70k done for the week. About an extra 10k above the previous 3 weeks, and a lot more faster running. So I had 4 sessions out of that week that were above easy paces. There's a time and a place for those epic sessions. Now isn't the time for me. I'm building that pace, but leaving something in the tank for each of the harder sessions means I can bounce back and get more work done over the weeks. If we think about the main goal, it's to be able to do some really hard stuff. But to do some really hard stuff, you need to be able to do the hard stuff. And to do the hard stuff, you need to be prepared. And at the moment, I'm preparing.